Welcome to Artist Tales, the podcast that features and celebrates artists from different walks of life. I'm your host, Heather Martin, and in this episode, I'm speaking with Sokari, a London-based photographer, curator, and gallery owner. Welcome, Sokari.
Hello, Heather. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, thanks for having me on your podcast.
Well, thanks for being a guest. I really appreciate it. So tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into, doing what you're doing, really.
I'll start with the photography first. Always been interested in photography from when I was a child. My dad was always had a camera at home, photographing us as kids, and I grew up with that. But then I also had an interest in architecture for some strange reason. I don't know why. I've always loved buildings and, external shapes and sounds and, shapes and movements and things. So my photography started off as a hobby first, and then I did that for quite some time. And I found out I was doing a lot of architectural photography. I do shoot people as well. I do portraiture, and I have a studio as well. So, but when I'm not doing like commercial photography for people, I sort of create my own photography, kind of fine art using models and props. But with the architectural one, just love buildings. So I try and capture buildings and do abstract fine art architectural photography, the shapes of the buildings. And I'm drawn to shapes, texture, light, and color in buildings. So it all started as a hobby, and then I finished university. Never studied photography formally, just doing it on the side. And then when I was working, I graduated in philosophy. I did a master's in business and information technology. And my last job was with an investment bank in the city of London. I was working as a systems engineer. But that was where I think I sharpened my photography skills, because I joined the photography club there just as someone who did it as a hobby. And we met once in a month, and we would do competitions. And, I've just found myself getting better and better from the watching and listening and learning from other people. And I got a break once to have a solo exhibition at a gallery. So that was when I kind of thought, okay, if people think I'm good enough, then I think, maybe I am a photographer. Yeah, because you have this imposter syndrome when you're not trained as a photographer. But that solo show was, it was an eye-opener for me, built my confidence. Complete strangers came in, loved the work. It's different when your friends say, oh, this is nice, but they're your friends. They will say that. But when a complete stranger walks into a gallery, doesn't know who you are, and sees the work and sometimes even buy it, makes you... Yeah, so it sort of built up from there. Then the gallery invited me back because that show, they liked it. They thought it was a successful show. And I did another solo with them. And then I started taking it seriously. And at some point, I decided it was time to quit my day job and just do it full time. So that's the photography bit. And then the gallery bit, which I'm now a gallery owner. That was also something I'd always had at the back of my head. And I think being a photographer or being an artist, one of the challenges you face is, how do you get your work to galleries? There's this impression galleries are snobbish and, it's like a little clique. So one of the reasons for setting up the gallery was to try and, first and foremost, have an avenue, a platform where I could encourage up-and-coming artists like myself, give a platform for people like me who had to go through the unusual route to show their work. So that was one of the basis of setting up the gallery. And obviously I love art, and we've been running it for just about 3 years now. And so that's it.
So it sounds like quite a big shift. So, it sounds like a big shift going from like paid work into like just starting out as an artist and having your own gallery. And I think many artists, whatever their artistic inclination is, quite often have a day job. And
Yeah.
how did you find that shift, when you decided, actually, this is what I want to pursue? Because I think for some, at least, it'd be kind of quite a scary jump to do that.
Yes, very scary. It's a massive pay cut, especially. I did think about it, while I was working, but then the fear of losing a regular salary was, is at the back of your mind. And when you've been used to a certain lifestyle, you don't just want to just give it up and say, hey. So it didn't happen overnight. I know I sort of tried to summarize it too, because I'm conscious of time. Didn't happen overnight. This was for a period. I worked with my last employer for 10 years. And so it took that whole period for me to build up the confidence. And it was that same period we had the exhibition. And I didn't just quit after that. I was looking for opportunities to quit. I thought of going to uni to study, sort of take a year off work, but they wouldn't give me that chance. I think at the time I was only allowed to take 3 months off, and I didn't think that was enough for me if I wanted to go to uni and study, and I didn't want to resign because, like you say, you have bills to pay. So a very difficult decision. However, an opportunity came. I was there for over 10 years. An opportunity came where they were moving our jobs to Poland, and we had the option to find a job within the London organization or take a severance pay. And at that point, it was a point where I was seriously thinking about it, and I had sort of had it, I wouldn't say fair, you just make a decision that, maybe this is the right time. You're not really happy doing what you're doing. And this opportunity came, and the severance pay was going to cover at least 1 year's salary. So I saw it as an opportunity to get the money and try it out. And I thought, you know what, I still have the skills. If it doesn't work, I can always go back and find a job. But it was an opportunity that I just thought, if I didn't do it now, I would spend the rest of my life regretting it. If I had resigned from the job, I wouldn't get that money. So that was an opportunity where I just thought, I'll take it, give it a go. It was a bold decision, but I felt at that point it was the right time to do it. And that was why. So, yeah.
That's, quite an interesting journey. And I think in some ways having that year, to say, actually, I'll give it a go. And I think, I really do get that, sense of, if I don't do it now, I don't want to regret not doing it.
Yeah.
So it kind of gave you that sort of, at least a bit of space to do it. Now, when you decided, okay, you wanted to be the artist, did you also decide at the same time, I want a studio, or or not a studio, but a gallery? Or did that kind of come second, if that makes sense?
It was kind of together, because part of the gallery also has a photography studio. So I had this plan, building up. I said, if I ever have a gallery, since I do photography, I would have a section that was a photography studio. So, so it was kind of the plan to take photography full time. And obviously I had to make a business plan on how to transition, because it's all well and good to say, oh, I'm a photographer, but I wanted to have a business that would also help build, rather than, if you don't have a job, photo shoot, or a job to some client to shoot, then you're just sitting there and waiting. So I wanted an opportunity to have a business as well, and have a studio I could shoot and hire the studio out. So we hired the studio out as well to other photographers, and I could do my own shoots there. And the gallery is also available for hire for artists as well. So in addition to me working with artists showing works, people can hire the space. So it kind of was sort of together in a way, although I started the studio first because it was hard to get a commercial space that I could incorporate the gallery. So I found a small space for the studio, and then that ran for, I think, about 18 months. And then I was able to find a bigger space that I could do both of them.
And I'm just conscious too that, actually, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, how did you choose where to have your studio and, your exhibition space, or, your gallery? Because I'm conscious that you're kind of in the East End of London. You're kind of in an area that has a lot of artists. You're near Trinity Buoy Wharf, which has been regenerated. So Was it just a virtue of that's what you could find and that sort of thing? Or was it like, did you have some affiliation to that area?
Yes, I'd lived in East London for nearly 30 years. So, and I've seen the area change. And somehow I just felt this was a part of town I needed. I should open up the gallery or studio because I'd lived there for so long. I saw what was happening. Trinity Buoy Wharf had been there a long time as well as an artist community. And I lived not too far from there. In fact, I did look for a studio space at Trinity Buoy Wharf, but I couldn't get one. So it was it was a conscious decision to be here. And I thought it'd be cheaper as well. If I went to the West End or west part of town, London, it would be really expensive to get a space that I would be able to use for what I wanted to do. So so when I happened to move homes to London City Island, which is where this gallery is, and it was by some coincidence the development and the developer was they had a vision of converting the island into a creative space area, and the English National Ballet was moving there. London Film School was going to come here as well, and I just thought this is the perfect place for it. I didn't have to think too far after that. And it was next to Trinity Buoy Wharf, as you say. So and I thought, there's a new area, new commercial units. They'll be cheaper than, normal places and more established places. So that was how that decision, I never thought I would be out of East London, to be honest. I always felt East London was the place to do it.
Yeah, so it's kind of, that's your space, and you have ties there. Mm. Now tell me a little bit about the curation. So how did you get involved with that, and what do you do really?
So for the gallery, I've always been interested in art from being a kid, obviously photography, even when I was at my job in the city, I was part of the art club where we used to get tickets to see exhibitions. It was, the company had corporate connections with the Tate and all the big names, and you could get membership, for corporate membership for some of the big galleries, and they organize shows for staff sometimes. So I had membership for Barbican, Tate, and most of those places where, So it was something always been interested in. And I think I'm a very visual person, and I've always had that ability to, to put things together, and make it more visually pleasant, if you like. So same with my photography. When I shoot, I would, I'm shooting a building, and I always try and shoot the building. Most people say different from what the normal person will see. I sort of see. So I don't know. It's just a natural. And when I've had my solo exhibitions, I've curated all the shows myself. So it just was natural. I don't know how to explain it. It was just something that I just could do without any, it's just, I'm a very visual person. So for me, I think of something and I try and translate what I'm thinking in my head visually. So when I'm doing curation, so setting up the gallery was quite easy. It just came natural. And to my surprise, especially when I'm working with artists, and a lot of artists don't know how to put their works together. So I just say, okay, tell me the story behind your work, and I'll be able to sort of put it together to get the story out the way. And most of the time it just works. The artists are pleased. Yeah, I think it's just some natural. My friends always, I liked interior, I liked to design. And my friends used to, when I was growing up, I was the go-to person if somebody wanted to buy something for their home or the furniture, or it's just that, say, no, that wouldn't work there. This would work. Don't put that there. So it's just, I really can't explain. It's just something that I've always done from being a child. Even my parents, my mom, my sisters would dress up and ask me, how does this look go? And I would say, no, change it. Wear the other one. It's that type of, no, change that earring and put this one on. So
So it kind of sounds like almost like an instinctual sort of thing.
Yes, thing for me. It's very instinctive, yes.
Going back to what you're saying about, choosing the area and how it, certainly, or choosing the area for your studio and gallery and having that connection. And I can imagine over the last 30 years or so, as you said, it's really has changed quite a lot. How much has that influenced you in terms of being an artist?
Oh, very much, because especially being an architectural photographer, I've practically seen nearly all the buildings come up from scratch. And because I love buildings and I love texture and light and movement, it does affect my art. And I try to, and I love history as well. That's the other thing so when I'm taking photos, sometimes I'm imagining what the space used to be, the place used to be before. In fact, the first solo show was called East of the River, which is all about East London. And it was it was based on the transformation of this part of town from what it used to be to what it is now. So yeah, it definitely has. I'm influenced by shapes and changes and sort of, yeah. I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah, no, it does, and I'm also conscious of the history because many years ago I did live on the Isle of Dogs, and even then people were saying, "Oh, it's changed so much," and and that was quite a number of years ago, and it's changed still since quite a lot. And so I was always very interested of what was there before and people's histories and how different it was. It was probably for quite a long time, particularly I'd imagine since the Second World War, it was kind of bombed out and, the decline of industry and stuff. And it's gone from kind of a more deprived area to something, particularly around Canary Wharf and there's money. And it's almost like a 180-degree turn. And I can imagine it's still kind of going through that process. And I'm sure you can see that not only in the architecture, but kind of the communities.
Communities, yes, definitely. No, I can. And one of the things when I've reflected on the area is, like you say, it was bombed a lot. But before then, this part of town used to be like the powerhouse for the economy because all the docks were here. All the goods used to come in from all over the world. If you go to Canary Wharf, you have West India Quay, which is where the Dockland Museum is. That building used to be the building where all the goods from the West Indies and the slaves used to come to. That was the dock they had to. Canary Wharf itself is named because that was area where the goods coming from the Canary Islands come. East India Dock Basin is here. And the street, I walked in that area and the streets were named nutmeg, oregano, saffron, Saffron Avenue, all connecting to the spices and things that used to come. So it was East India Dock, so goods used to come in from the east. So the powerhouse of London, which sort of declined, and it just suddenly, like you say, it's come round full circle to Canary Wharf being a financial centre again, which is where another powerhouse of London. So yeah, so I'm really interested in that, and I kind of in as much as I'm shooting and taking those photos, I am influenced by the thoughts of what was there before, and trying to project the current version of things, if you like.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess there's just that connection throughout history, and it's trying to, respect what has happened and what was there with, the changes in the future and that sort of thing. Now, just thinking of other influences on sort of what you do as an artist, who or what has influenced you apart from being in the East End of London?
Architecture is something I love. I always joke that I was probably an architect in my previous life or something. Fortunately, I didn't study. So I'm influenced by, great architects and great architecture. So we have modern day architects, Zaha, Rogers, was my brain, Frank Gehry, all the superstar, and just naturally building. So in terms of photography, it's very strange because I've been asked that question when I was starting out. Who influenced? I'm like I said before, I'm very visual. I take a lot from what I see without necessarily following a particular artist or a particular photographer. So yeah, I feel somehow it's not. I'm almost. It feels like I'm being cocky, but I know I'm getting influence from lots of people, lots of photographers, and lots of because I'm very visual. I look for things and all, but when I'm when I'm taking a photo, I'm usually just thinking it how I imagine it from my head, and I want to try and recreate what's there. Sometimes it will turn out to be something that's looks like something someone else has done before, which is where I believe, you have these unconscious influences of people that affect you as you go day to day. You don't register it as, oh, this is a photographer I love. But, I do have photographers that, Annie Leibovitz, I love her work. And, so I do love people, but she doesn't do architecture. She does portraiture and it's different. So, yeah, but in terms of what drives me and where I get what influence it's the buildings, shapes, color, texture. If I walk by the street, I see a building, and I'm looking at the texture of it, and I'm trying to see how do I interpret that so that the viewer can feel it the way I feel it, if you like. And so yes, not quite the conventional answer of, oh, by so and so and so, but it's just I'm influenced by everybody, really.
Yeah. Well, and that's fine. And I think, some people it will be specific artists, and other people it's just what you see. It could be artists, it could be walking down the street and seeing a particular, building, or even not necessarily building and how things are constructed. It's kind of what influences you. So when you're looking for things to photograph, like particularly architecture and that sort of thing, is it predominantly London? Or do you kind of travel around a bit to different places in different countries?
Yes, I do. And that's the one good thing my previous job I'm really thankful for that job because it gave me the opportunity to travel. I love traveling as well. So most of my works architecturally are from all over the world, Europe, America, South America. Yeah, I chase buildings, if you like, sometimes. So if an architect, I really like their work and I've seen it on TV or know about this new build, I would plan holidays around that so that, make short trips if it's Europe, or when I'm, Brazil, I would go. Oscar Niemeyer is one of my favorite architects. So when I was in Brazil, I, sort of just went crazy looking for everything Oscar Niemeyer and photographing. So yes, so I do not just London based. In fact, I think I haven't done enough justice to London, because when you live in a place, you take it for granted. I'll go tomorrow. But when I'm overseas, because I know I have a limited time, I kind of just spend time just walking. Most of my holiday, I'm walking the streets, I don't do underground or trains or public transport, because that's the best way to see. So I chase buildings, chase architects, but then there's so many buildings I've photographed that I didn't even know existed. So while you're going to look at one, you see something. And some of my best works, I think, have come from such buildings. So it's almost like you have that moment and that time to take this picture of the building, because you'll probably never be back there again. Whether the weather's good or bad, you're not going to go back when it's raining, because you have only 3-4 days to be, or when it's sunny.
I was going to ask actually whether, you go back and revisit places, or do you just kind of, you go do it and that's it?
There are places I've gone back when I have felt I didn't have enough time and I could do better. Yes, I have been back to places. I remember flying into Bilbao for a day, because first time I was there was for a short period. The weather was great, and I thought, I'm not going to go into the Guggenheim Museum, because why stay indoors when the sun is out and I can explore the city? I spent the whole Friday, Saturday, Sunday and shooting external and stuff. And I had planned to go in on a Monday, because the weather forecast was Monday was not going to be very great. I wanted to photograph the inside. And woke up that morning, got ready, and found out that the museum doesn't open on Mondays.
Oh, no.
So that was really annoying. And quite depressing. So I made a point of duty to fly in on a Tuesday or Wednesday in the morning, just so I could do the photographs inside, and then I flew back in the evening. So yeah, so there are buildings I've revisited. I've been to Liège a few times, Paris, and sometimes it's not because I intentionally want to, it's just when I'm there again, because even with the same building, you can photograph it differently when you go back because of the light conditions, the weather conditions, the way the shadows are hitting the facade and stuff. So yeah, I'm obviously like Brazil, far away, or Japan. It's not somewhere you can just say, okay, I'm heading to Japan now for the weekend. But I would love to go back to most of those places, yes, to shoot.
And you get many, whether it's architects or building owners or, companies who manage buildings, do you get people contacting you now that you're established, kind of asking you to go out and take pictures of their building?
Yes, I have had some, not as much as I would want, because a lot of these organizations have their own photographers that they rely on and trust. But I do have some. I have there's a company in Italy. I posted a photo of one of the buildings that they did the glass. The speciality is the glass facade of buildings. That's what they do. And a lot of big buildings in the world, actually, they cover it with glass. So they're based in Milan. And I posted something on Instagram once, and they liked it and said, oh, that's the best photo of our building. I had no idea it was their building. And I said, thank you. And then when I had my third solo exhibition, that photo was going to be in it. I completely forgot. So last minute, I just messaged the same Instagram account and say, hey, by the way, that thing is in that show. And if you're in London, I didn't even know they were in Italy at the time because the building was in London. And I said, I'm having this show, if you like to come and see, blah, blah, blah. And then they said, oh, we're so sorry. We're based in Italy. But, anyway, cut the long story short. Going fast forward later, I got contacted by someone from the company and asked me to do it. I posted another building that did, and they said, oh, we would like you to photograph that building. And they gave me sort of access to it. That's it's called the Can of Ham in the cities, and it's sort of, it was just random. I didn't even know it was their building. So and since then I've got work from them. I've done there are other organizations I've shot for, but not as much as I would like. As most artists would say.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, have there been any challenges you faced, or what kind of challenges have you faced or, currently facing as an artist and a gallery owner?
First, as an artist, I sort of talked about that, sort of touch the surface. It's like I say, most organizations already have their photographers, and it's all about who they know. So it's hard to break into those kind of places to say, hey, I do this kind of work. Can I do shoot for you? So that's a big challenge, and it's something that I've faced and I'm still facing in terms of being an artist as well, which is, again, one of the reasons I said I set up the gallery. It's just that, galleries are perceived to be sort of close-knit. You don't just walk into a gallery and get your work in there, especially with the big ones. So that's a challenge, getting yourself out there, getting opportunity to show your work, and, being able to sell work, at a reasonable price. You find people tend to, because photography, everyone's a photographer these days because you have a phone. So people tend to devalue what you do. And even when they want you to do work, you get a lot of offers, but they don't want to pay, or they want to pay you peanuts because they don't appreciate it as a profession the way they should, other professions. So I think generally most artists face that problem, but photography is very common. People come and they tell you, we'll tag you, we'll mention you in our thing if you do it. Like, no, mentioning is not going to pay my rent.
Yeah.
So, if you want me to work for you, you need to pay. So that's that. Then I think the second part was as a gallery.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So the gallery bit, a bit similar, but we're a new gallery. it costs a lot to promote, again, in the big established publications and things. It costs money to put yourself out there. But one of the things we've done is use social media. Social media can be free, but you have the paid ads as well. So we've used that a lot, and that has given us a lot of visibility. People know about us in that part of the art world, lots of artists. And when we have this, we try and do a show or two every month. And one thing I've realized is the more shows you do, because you're engaging with different artists, each artist has their own following. So if you have 10 artists in a show, you've just sort of multiplied your reach by 10, because each of those artists have people that follow them, and they will tag you and spread the word, and more people get to know. So every time we do a show, we get new people that've never been to the gallery come. So we're in a part of East London that, again, that's not so well known. It's not Oxford Street, which is where, so many people, but we do get traffic. So that's a challenge, trying to get us out there. But I think in the 3 years we've existed, we've managed to get ourselves known enough. Obviously, there's more work to be done.
Yeah, I think, it can be that process of building up, the awareness of both as an artist, but also the gallery side of things. Yeah.
Side of things. And just also to mention, and also to build up a client base that would be, to buy the works from you as a gallery and to help the artist. So that's another thing we're slowly building. Most of the established big names, they already have their big buyers and client lists. So I think the challenge is, how do you get to those collectors that you can say, hey, I have this artist, or I have these works here. Would you like to come and see? How do you get press to cover you when you have important exhibitions or shows or artists that you think need to be seen? So I think that's, one of the biggest challenge that we have. But again, we're getting known every single day. I mean, where we are today is not where we were when we first started. So yeah, it's just, I guess, just hang in there and keep pushing, and hopefully get there.
Yeah, and I'll definitely put the details and the links both to you, as the artist, but also to your gallery. And the name of the gallery is the Lighthouse, isn't it?
It's called London Lighthouse Gallery and Studio. That's the full name. We always like to include the studio so people know it's a full. Yeah, so London Lighthouse Gallery and Studio.
Great. And I'll include the details in the description of this episode. Now, final kind of question is, what's next? So what are you planning next in terms of whether it's, exhibitions or whatever the next thing is, really?
As an artist, one of the disadvantages of running the gallery is not giving me the chance to travel as much, and also to do my own projects, which I used to do a lot when I didn't run the gallery. So I have some projects in my head that I would like to do as an artist, especially in the studio. But it's been hard to combine both and make time to do. So in terms of being an artist, I have a project that I've done some of it, but I would like to finish that, shooting with models using, I've got some already on my Instagram, using a colorful sailing rope that I bought for that project. So that's that. And then obviously there are buildings outside London and outside UK I would love to travel to see. I'd love to go to Azerbaijan to photograph Zaha Hadid's building there, which is just stunning. Yeah, and many more buildings. So that's it. And then in the gallery front, we still have time. We're currently Black History Month, so we have one of our biggest artists, Jacqueline Sowari, who is showing here for the second time. So that show will finish at the end of the month. And then we have 2 more shows in November, and then that will be it. And then we start to plan for next year. So that's sort of what's next for the gallery. And then next year we'll take a break and plan what shows and stuff we want to do based on what we did this year.
Yeah, so that's in 2025.
25, yeah.
Yeah.
But for this year, we're sort of rounding up the last 3 shows. And excited. The work here is great. She's a ballpoint pen artist. She's known as a queen of the ballpoint. and known globally. And we're privileged or honored to have her work here for the second time. She does on massive, large scale. So,
well, I hope to get out and see it.
yeah, you should. It finishes end of the month, so try to be here and before end of October.
Great. It's been lovely having you as a guest on the podcast. So thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I think this is my second podcast ever. So
wow.
bit not quite used to it, but thank you for having me.
I really appreciate you listening to this episode with Sokari. I hope you enjoyed it. For more information about Sokari, including his social media handles, check out the episode notes. I'd really appreciate it if you could also rate and review the podcast in the podcast apps. In the penultimate episode, I have a really interesting conversation with the founding members of Fika, Book and Zine. I look forward to you joining me for the next episode.